Her expertise and leadership in her field has made her a known commodity on the hit TV series Fatal Attraction. She is now a best-selling author. We'd like to welcome Dr. Jeannelle Perkins-Muhammad, a licensed family therapist who has just released her book, Intimacy, Mastering Black Intimacy for the Relationship You've Always Wanted. Great to have you.
Thank you.
What inspired you to write this book?
Oh my goodness, two things in particular. Social media, because on a regular basis we see those who tell us what our relationships should look like, and we need to be able to form those relationships on our own. And then the other was really my colleagues, because oftentimes there are a number of aspects in African American culture, generational legacies, that don't really get tapped into in therapy. And so I took some time to dig a little deeper into those areas.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, because you talk about the African American experience as far as intimacy is concerned. So how is it different? How is it unique?
Well, one of the ways is that we're impacted by institutional racism. We're impacted by the wealth gap that exists, and that plays a huge part in relationships, particularly when you think about the fact that many couples have difficulty communicating about finances, or even when you come home and realize you didn't get a promotion because it's the color of your skin. So when we talk about how that impacts the relationship, it's the anxiety of it, the depression of those things that are happening around you, and then how those really come to play when you're treating your spouse or your family member differently because you're really angry about something that happened in an entirely different environment.
You have an interesting table of feelings inside your book, and you talk about communication. So about, what do you think is the percentage of those feelings that do not get communicated
in a
relationship?
Probably 90%.
Oh gosh.
We really only know happy.
And there's a lot of feelings in
there
that
are a lot
chart
of
too,
feelings.
yeah. it's a whole grid.
We really only tap into happy, angry, maybe a little bit of sadness here and there, but we're not really being vulnerable with ourselves or with the people around us. So at the end of the day, 90% of those are not discussed. And the difference between saying to someone, I'm angry, and saying I'm disappointed is a huge, huge difference in response. And once you understand disappointment versus anger, you now are going to begin to look at one another differently, speak to one another differently, and you will strategize differently in how you're going to come to the end of a problem.
It's having that empathy for the other person. Now, is this book geared more towards the female reader or the male reader, or both?
Both.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, men in general have a very difficult time, I think, tapping into that softer side. So what would you say for a man who's watching this, who does want to improve his intimacy with his partner, to really sit down to read, to absorb this, the words that you have in this book?
I think the key is to understand that there are case studies that deal specifically with men. So I'm not looking at this from a female perspective entirely. And the greatest component of it is that I talk about how men can open up and be more vulnerable without feeling like they're a punk. I use those words, right? Not feeling like they have less control or power, because power and control are really about the internal, not about the other person.
Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point. Now, you also offer classes, is that right?
That's right.
What kind of classes are these?
So 4 lenses, which is a personality assessment, communication courses, mental health and relationships, and we do those right here in the city, because not everybody is interested in coming in for therapy. So we want them to still gain access to those skills. So we offer these classes. Our first one, I think, starts March 1st. And we take them all the way through the fall.
There's some safety in numbers.
Yes.
So you also learn from other people's experiences.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, when you've got many voices coming in to talk about the same thing, you've got different perspectives that maybe you wouldn't even quite know how to articulate, right? So you hear it coming from somebody else, like, oh yeah, wait a second, I can relate to that.
And you recognize that everyone is dealing with some of the same issues. The main difference is how you respond.
Absolutely. Well, you've got a wonderful book signing coming up, a book
do.
release party. It's a soiree, everybody. This is happening on Friday, February 10th at 6 p.m. Founders Hall downtown. Make sure you go, and you can go and visit your website for more information on the classes and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can get tickets at drjeannelle.com for the event, and then tmicounselingandcoaching.com for all the other events and classes.
That's wonderful. I'll be watching Fatal Attraction as well.
Oh,
it's good
I love it.
Oh, it's a good series. Good to see you.
You too.
We're back after this.